For years, my husband made me feel like I was nothing, insulting me regularly. I stuck around, let him drain my finances, and left the moment he lost his job. Now he's broke, unemployed, and living with his mom. He called me nonstop 30 times a day. I met Charles at O'Malley's, a local bar downtown where everyone gathers after work on Fridays. I was there with some colleagues from the insurance office where I worked as an admin assistant. He seemed so self-assured, buying me a White Claw and chatting about his middle management role at Midwest Manufacturing. There was something about him that made me feel special, like he had chosen me out of everyone in the room. After 2 years of dating, we got married. My friends thought it was fast, especially Kira, my best friend since high school. But I was convinced. Looking back, I should have caught the warning signs, like how he insisted we combine our finances right away because that's what married couples do, or how he'd say things like, "Good thing you've got me to handle the finances. You'd probably blow it all on Target runs." He'd laugh, and everyone else would join in. I didn't notice how the joke started getting worse after we merged our accounts. When I buy groceries and see something like organic milk for $7, I check her statements. And when I got a small raise, he'd say, "Well, you're not exactly management material, but I guess it's cute they gave you something." When I wanted to go for a promotion, he'd tell me, "Honey, you know that's just not your thing. Besides, I make enough for both of us." And then he'd follow up with, "I'm just teasing," or, "You know I love you." I believed him though, because that's what I thought marriage was. My parents had the same dynamic. Dad would always tease Mom about her cooking, her weight, or her quirky hobbies. But things started changing about 2 years ago. Charles began coming home later. It wasn't anything drastic. First it was 7 p.m. instead of 6 p.m., then 8 p.m. Sometimes he'd smell like beer. Other times like that cologne sample they hand out at the mall. When I asked, he'd brush it off, saying it was just drinks with the guys from work or that he had to entertain a client. Then he'd laugh and say, "You're so cute," thinking like that, as if I should be focused on whether we needed more LaCroix in the fridge. Our sex life shifted too. He stopped initiating unless he was drunk. When I tried, he'd make comments about my body. They weren't direct insults, just remarks that left me feeling awful. "You've got this little pooch thing happening," he'd say, poking my stomach while I lay there, vulnerable, or, "Your boobs look different since you gained weight. I'm 5 feet 6 inches and 145 pounds. Pretty much the same as when we met." I started pulling away physically, but he used that against me. "This is why men cheat," he'd say, casually scrolling through Instagram. When their wives stopped putting out, he'd add, never admitting to cheating, but always hinting at it. The suggestion loomed over us. Last summer, I noticed our savings account was lower than it should have been. When I brought it up, Charles exploded. "Are you checking up on me? Don't you trust me? I'm the one making the real money here," he snapped, slamming the door so hard it knocked down the wall art we put up when we first moved in. I couldn't sleep that night. While he snored beside me, I scrolled through our online banking on my phone. There were withdrawals, small but consistent, mostly on Fridays for amounts between $200 and $300. Over the months, it added up to thousands. The next day at work, I mentioned it to Oliver, my coworker who sits in the cubicle next to mine. He's always talking about his Robinhood account and crypto investments, stuff that honestly goes over my head. "That sounds shady," he said. "You should start saving separately, just in case." "In case of what?" I asked. He just gave me this look, and I felt stupid. Of course, I knew exactly what he meant, in case everything fell apart. I started small. I opened a Capital One account online with my personal email, one Charles didn't have access to. I set up direct deposit for a portion of my paycheck, just $100 per pay period at first. Charles never noticed because he only checked the joint account statements. I started working extra hours at the office when we had claim processing backlogs, telling Charles the first was helping out, but pocketing the overtime pay. Around Christmas, things at home got worse. Charles came back from his company holiday party in a terrible mood. He'd been passed over for promotion again. "Fucking Maximilian," he muttered, referring to his coworker who got the position. "Probably sucking up to the VP. That's what your type does, right? You're not promotion material." I remember standing in the kitchen, realizing my husband wasn't just mediocre as a person. He was mediocre at his job too. The thought stung, but once it entered my mind, I couldn't ignore it. In January, the jokes got worse. "Guess not everyone can make edible pasta," he'd say about my cooking. "Kira's still single because she's impossible to please, like someone else I know," he added about my best friend. As for my family, Charles always had something to say about them. "Your sister's kids are so loud. Guess loud and annoying runs in your family," he'd comment. I started jotting everything down in the notes app on my phone, date, time, exact words. I don't know why at first. Maybe just to reassure myself that I wasn't losing my mind, but it became a habit, a sort of comfort, really, proof that I wasn't imagining things. In February, I stumbled upon something I didn't expect: the credit card statements, not our usual Visa card. It was a Capital One card I didn't even know existed. The statements were sent to his work email, and I only saw them because he left his laptop open when he fell asleep watching videos. The charges were from places like Lucky Star Entertainment and VIP Room. A quick Google search revealed these were strip clubs near his office. I didn't confront him about it. Instead, I secretly doubled the amount I was saving away from our joint account and began scouring apartments on Zillow during my lunch breaks. In March, the rumors of layoffs started to circulate at Charles' company. He came home more tense than usual, drinking more Miller Lite and making sharper remarks. "If I lose my job, you'll finally learn what real work is," he'd say while I silently calculated how many more paychecks I needed before I could leave. And then last week, it happened. He called me at work, his voice tight with rage. They let me go. Maximilian's department was spared. "Fucking diversity hire, probably," he continued. My heart pounded as he went on. "Don't bother making dinner. I'm going out with the guys." He stumbled home at 2 am drunk. I pretended to be asleep as he crashed around the bedroom, muttering about ungrateful wives and how no one appreciated a man who sacrificed everything. The next morning, he slept until noon while I quietly moved money from our joint savings into my secret account. When he finally woke up, bleary-eyed and hostile, he made his declaration. "We're moving in with my parents until I find something," he said, not asking but stating it like it was a given. "You'll need to give notice at your little job. Not like you make enough to matter anyway." I just nodded, saying nothing, while my mind raced about the apartment I'd already applied for, the one I'd been approved for just the day before, the one he didn't know a thing about. "What? No opinion," he sneered. "Of course not," I replied. "You never have anything valuable to contribute." And that's when something inside me finally snapped. 8 years of jokes about me crystallized in a sharp clarity. I looked at him, really looked at him, this average man with thinning hair and a growing beer belly who'd spent years convincing me I was worthless. "Actually," I said quietly, "I do have an opinion." That was when I told him I was leaving. I'd been planning it for months. I knew about the strip clubs, the missing money, all of it. His face went through a whirlwind of expressions I'll never forget. Shock, disbelief, rage, and finally fear. "You can't leave," he sputtered. "You're nothing without me. Who's going to want you? You can't even manage money." I just smiled, grabbed my pre-packed suitcase from the hall closet, and walked out. It's been 3 days. I'm writing this from my new apartment. It's nothing fancy, just a one-bedroom near the park. Charles has called me 37 times today alone. He's texted 19 times, left 15 voicemails, ranging from tearful apologies to vicious threats. Apparently, he's figured out that I moved most of our savings. All perfectly legal. My name was on the accounts too. Now he's living with his mom. No job, no savings, no wife. Just his childhood bedroom and his bruised ego. First update. First, thank you all for the support on my last post. I've read every comment, and they've helped more than you can imagine, especially during those nights when I question everything. It's been exactly 1 week since I left Charles. The first thing I felt wasn't some overwhelming sense of freedom. It was realizing I forgot to pack my phone charger, spent my first night of freedom with my phone at 12% battery. Too anxious to sleep, I spent the night watching YouTube videos on organizing small spaces, keeping the brightness on low. My new apartment is, well, it's an apartment. The bathroom fan clicks weirdly. The neighbor's kid practices violin at 7 a.m., but it's mine. I bought a shower curtain from Target yesterday, one of those cloth ones with little tassels. Charles would have hated it. He'd have called it basic white girl decor and said something like, "You can't even pick out bathroom accessories without help." Speaking of Charles, he's called 127 times in the last 7 days. 89 texts, 15 voicemails. They started with, "Baby, I'm sorry, please come home," and evolved into, "You ungrateful bitch, you're nothing without me." The latest one was just him breathing heavily for 2 minutes. I haven't responded to any of them, but I'd be lying if I said they didn't get to me. Ivy, my mother-in-law, showed up at my work yesterday. That was fun. She was crying, saying Charles hadn't eaten in days, hadn't showered, keeps saying how he lost everything. Part of me felt guilty for a second. Then she said, He's sorry about the strip clubs. Honey, men just need attention sometimes when their wives are. And just like that, all the guilt disappeared. I didn't tell her about the gambling or about the receipts I found for online poker sites in his email while I was gathering documents, or the $23,000 in credit card debt he'd hidden, or the payday loans. She probably still thinks I'm the villain who left her precious son when he lost his job. The weirdest part? My daily routine, making coffee for one, grocery shopping for one. Turns out, I hate the bread Charles always insisted we buy, coming home to silence instead of the usual litany of ways I disappointed him that day. I keep catching myself waiting for Charles' reaction to things, then remembering that I don't need his permission anymore. Kira's been amazing. She shows up with takeout, helps me rearrange my furniture, doesn't say anything when I cry over silly things like not knowing which brand of laundry detergent to buy, because Charles always handled that. Yesterday, I had a breakdown in Target because I couldn't decide what hangers to get. She just stood there, holding me in the storage aisle while I sobbed over plastic versus velvet hangers. Peak dignity, right? The financial situation is messy. Charles finally discovered that I moved most of our savings. He's been telling everyone I stole from him, conveniently forgetting that my name was on the accounts too, that I only took what I contributed over the years. His friend Maximilian, the one who got the promotion Charles wanted, messaged me on Facebook to congratulate me. Turns out Charles had been bad-mouthing him to everyone, calling him slurs, trying to sabotage his work. That's the real reason he got fired, not because of downsizing. Last night, I ordered pizza with pineapple. Charles always said that pineapple on pizza was for people with no taste. I ate it sitting on my new couch, the cheap one he would have hated. Watching the reality show he said was rotting my brain, I wore the Target leggings he always called lazy person clothes. The pizza tasted like freedom. A little lonely, kind of cold by the time I finished it, but it was mine. I know this post is all over the place. I am too. 1 minute, I'm proud of myself. The next, I'm doubting everything. This morning, I spent 20 minutes staring at my reflection, trying to see what Charles saw. The stupid, worthless person he described. Instead, I just saw me, tired, a bit scared, but still here. He's still at his mom's house, still jobless, still calling. His latest move is having his friends' wives reach out, telling me how worried everyone is, how I'm tearing apart a family. Meanwhile, I'm learning how to build a life that's mine. Second update. I wasn't planning on posting another update so soon, but after today, I need to process what happened. It started with a delivery, just a regular DoorDash order, Thai food from that place near my new apartment. I was working from home because my internet was being installed. Finally, the doorbell rang, and I opened it without thinking. It wasn't DoorDash. It was Charles, standing there with flowers from the grocery store, still in a plastic wrap with the $9.99 sticker visible. He'd lost weight, hadn't shaved, wearing that old UW hoodie he's had since college. For a second, muscle memory almost made me step aside to let him in. Instead, I closed the door. My hands were shaking so much, I could barely get the deadbolt locked. "Babe, come on," he said through the door. "I just want to talk. I've changed. I've been going to therapy." Narrator's note. He hasn't. Ivy told Kira he refused to go. I didn't respond, just sat on the floor in the entryway, back against the door, listening to him cycle through his greatest hits. "I'm sorry about everything. You're overreacting. Remember how good we were together? You're being dramatic. I miss you. You're nothing without me. I love you. You ungrateful bitch." This went on for 45 minutes. My neighbor across the hall, sweet old lady who waters my plants when I'm at work, called the police. By the time they arrived, Charles had left, but not before slipping a letter under my door. I haven't read it yet. It's sitting on my kitchen counter like it might explode. The police were, police, took a report, told me to call if he comes back, suggested I get cameras. I already ordered them on Amazon, thanks to everyone who recommended them in the comments of my last post. Turns out, Charles found my address through Ivy. She'd asked Kira's sister where I'd moved because she was worried about me. I'm not even mad at Ivy anymore. She's just another victim of Charles' manipulation. She truly believes her son is the real victim here. After the police left, I had a mild panic attack in my bathroom. Not one of those dramatic breakdowns, just sat on the toilet lid, scrolling through TikTok while trying to breathe normally. Fun times. I called out of work for the rest of the day. My boss was understanding. She's been through something similar, apparently. It's weird how many people open up with similar stories once you start telling yours. Kira came over after her last client. She brought wine and those frozen appetizers from Trader Joe's we used to eat in college. We didn't talk about Charles. Instead, we watched bad reality TV and tried to figure out if the weird stain on my ceiling looked more like a duck or a rabbit. The thing that's messing with my head the most? When I saw Charles today, he looked small. Not physically, though. Yes, he's lost weight, but like diminished. The man who spent years making me feel tiny suddenly seemed so much less threatening than the shadow he used to cast in my mind. Don't get me wrong, I'm still scared. I'm angry, I'm sad, but mostly I'm tired. Tired of jumping every time my phone buzzes. Tired of checking my rearview mirror for his car. Tired of feeling like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop. Some updates on other fronts. Changed all my passwords. Again. Finally got my own Netflix account. Goodbye, Charles S. watch list. Ordered a Ring doorbell camera. Started therapy, actual therapy. Not the fake kind Charles claimed he was doing. Adopted a cat from the shelter. Her name's Milo, and she judges everything I do. The weirdest part? Life keeps going. My dishwasher still needs to be unloaded. My plants still need watering. Milo still needs her litter box cleaned. The world doesn't stop just because your ex-husband has a public meltdown on your doorstep. Oh, and the DoorDash driver? He eventually showed up. Food was cold. I still ate it. The letter is still sitting on my counter. Part of me wants to burn it. Part of me wants to read it. Most of me wants to pretend today never happened. Third update. I was at Whole Foods yesterday, treating myself to their fancy mac and cheese from the hot bar. Don't judge. When I literally bumped carts with Maximilian. Yes, that Maximilian, the one Charles blamed for his firing. You know that awkward moment when you run into someone you know, but aren't sure if you should acknowledge them? Multiply that by 1,000 when it's your ex-husband's former coworker, the one he claimed ruined his life. But Maximilian just smiled and asked how I was doing. We ended up getting coffee at the Starbucks inside the store. What he told me? Well, it explains a lot. Charles wasn't fired because of downsizing. He wasn't fired because Maximilian took his position. He was fired because he got caught falsifying expense reports. Those client meetings at strip clubs? He was submitting them as business expenses. The team lunches that cost hundreds? Solo trips to sports bars where he'd gamble on games. But here's the kicker. The company was willing to work with him. They offered him a chance to pay back the money and take a demotion. His response? He went on a tirade about how Maximilian, who had nothing to do with any of this, was out to get him and made some threats that HR couldn't ignore. Maximilian showed me screenshots of messages Charles sent him after the firing. They're not good. Lots of slurs, lots of threats. Apparently, Charles had been telling everyone at work that Maximilian was sleeping with me. We'd never even spoken before yesterday. I sat there in Starbucks, holding my cooling coffee, realizing that the man I'd been married to was even more of a stranger than I thought. Other updates. Milo, my cat, has decided 3 a.m. is the perfect time to learn parkour. Finally read that letter Charles left, took it to therapy first. It was 8 pages of alternating apologies and blame. Got a Ring doorbell camera after he showed up. Worth every penny. Started doing yoga with YouTube videos in my living room. Charles always said yoga was for people who aren't smart enough for real exercise. Found an old journal from when we first started dating. Reading it is enlightening. The journal entries are the hardest part. I wrote about how lucky I was that Charles chose me. How I needed to try harder to be good enough for him. There's an entire entry about how I spent 3 hours making his favorite dinner after he said, I cook like someone who hates food. Ivy called yesterday. She started with the usual guilt trip about how Charles is not eating, how he's crying all the time. Then she said something interesting. I should have seen it sooner. He's just like his father. Turns out Charles' dad didn't leave for work opportunities like Charles always claimed. He left after gambling away their savings and maxing out credit cards in Ivy's name. History really does repeat itself. I'm not angry anymore. Not really. Mostly I feel weird. Like when you finally take off uncomfortable shoes you've worn all day. The relief is immediate. But you still have those indents in your skin that take time to fade. Some things that have changed in 3 months. I can watch whatever I want on TV without commentary. My grocery bill is half what it used to be. Turns out I don't actually need expensive protein bars and energy drinks. I sleep through the night most of the time. I bought plants and haven't killed them. Yet, I started using my real laugh again. Not the quiet one Charles said was more attractive. Some things that haven't. I still check my rearview mirror obsessively. Jump when my phone rings. automatically apologize for everything, struggle to make simple decisions sometimes. Miss him in weird moments, like when I saw his favorite cereal on sale. Maximilian gave me his card before we left. Said to call if I ever need anything. Not in a flirty way. He's happily married to his wife of 5 years. Just as someone who gets it, last update, I was at Target buying plastic storage bins because apparently adulting means getting excited about organizing stuff. As I was comparing prices, I heard someone say, "You don't want those ones, the lids crack easily." It was Ivy, my former mother-in-law, standing there in the storage aisle holding a bag of cat litter. For a second, I froze. My cart was full of obvious single-person items. Frozen meals for one, a new shower curtain, that weird lavender spray everyone on TikTok is obsessed with, evidence of my new life without her son. But Ivy just smiled, tired but genuine. "That cat litter you recommended for Milo? I got a cat too." Turns out Charles moved out of her house last month. He's sleeping on his friend's couch, still unemployed, still blaming everyone else. Ivy looks lighter. She's going to therapy. She joined a book club. We got coffee at Starbucks. No drama. No tears, just two women talking about cats, books, and how hard it is to find good storage containers. "I'm sorry," she said, "not just for him. For me too, for not seeing it sooner. He's so much like his father, and I didn't want to admit it." Life updates since my last post. I moved to a slightly better apartment. This one has a dishwasher. Milo has accepted that 3 a.m. is not parkour time. Finally blocked Charles on everything after his latest meltdown. Got my first real credit card in my name. Learning to cook, though my smoke detector is my most honest critic. The weirdest part of healing? The mundane moments, like realizing I automatically bought Charles as favorite snacks for months before remembering I don't even like salt and vinegar chips. Or catching myself apologizing to my coffee maker when I bump into it, still working on the constant apologizing. Some victories that probably sound small, but feel huge. I ordered food without checking the price 3 times, wore red lipstick. Charles always said it made me look trashy. Used the good towels on a regular Tuesday. Called my mom without rehearsing what to say first. I still have bad days. Yesterday, I had a mini panic attack because I couldn't decide what brand of toothpaste to buy. I stood in the dental care aisle for 20 minutes, nearly crying because there were too many choices, but the good days outnumber the bad ones now. Charles is still around, peripherally. He made a scene at his friend's wedding last month. I heard through mutual friends, he got drunk, started ranting about how I stole his life. The friend's wife, who I'd never even met, apparently told him to leave. He's been telling people I cheated on him with Maximilian, that I stole all his money. I only took what I'd contributed, that I broke him. He was broken long before me. The thing is, I don't care anymore. Not in a dramatic, I'm so over it way, more like how you stop noticing background noise once you've been away from it long enough. Ivy gave me a hug before we left, said she's proud of me, asked if I wanted to get coffee again sometime. I said maybe, and I meant it. I bought the storage bin she recommended. They're sitting in my living room now, waiting to be filled. Milo is sleeping in one of the empty ones because cats are weird like that. This will probably be my last update. Not because everything's perfect, it's not. I still jump when my phone rings. Still rehearse conversations in my head. Still catch myself trying to be smaller, quieter, less difficult. But I'm learning, growing, healing. To everyone in a similar situation, you're not crazy. You're not too sensitive. You're not overreacting, and you're definitely not nothing.